So we're here for a new talk, and this one will be in English because we have some guests that will speak English. I hope that's not a problem. My name is Mandy, pronoun she, her, and I would like my guests to introduce themselves. So let's start with you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Luis Bracamontes. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a creative strategist and also a spoken word artist.
Oh, nice.
My name is Jewell, pronouns she, her, queen, and I'm a performer or dancer.
My name is Dennis Beilefeld, or Mama Queen. Pronouns, anything and everything. I always refer to myself as me, and I think it's really interesting how people refer to me. So for me, it's not like I don't have a preferred pronouns, but I really think it's interesting how people perceive me always. And I'm a drag queen and a fashion designer.
My name is Araya, Araya Lester. He, him. And I like to think that I'm a spirit and a creator. And in between all the things I do and I move through, I happen to make music and theater.
Nice. What Arya doesn't know is that in the end of this panel, I'm getting that jacket. I already said it to him.
I'm getting
So
the
that's-
headpiece.
Yeah, okay.
I'll find you for it.
And the
I just-
shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm not sure
I
if
also brought a really nice tanga. I don't know who wants.
can
You know,
keep
when you
that
go
on.
stripping the layers, you know what I mean? You can choose who takes it.
just wanted to mention that before we start this talk. If we say queers in performance art, that could be a lot of different things. Like there's not really like what is performance art? It's a big thing, but still we're gonna try to define it. But if you hear that, then what's the first thing you think? Queers in performance art. What does that bring up to you, Luis?
Oh, that's a beautiful question because I agree with you. Performance can cover a very wide range of topics, but I guess the connecting thread is presence, is the moment. It very often happens live or in front of an audience. And when you combine that with the element of queerness, that queerness is such a political and historically challenging fight that constantly struggles to assert its presence and existence. When you put two and two together, it's the most beautiful way of exerting queerness by saying, I am here and I am creating and I am sharing with other people, with my community.
Yeah. How is that for you, Jewel?
I see it as like fairness, as being open, being who you are, just for a little bit actually forgetting about the whole political thing and about what is correct and who are you. When you're on stage as a queer performer, it doesn't matter who you are.
No.
It's just you on stage, and whoever wants to enjoy it, enjoys it, takes the spirit, being actually inspired by it. And I think that's one of the things that I'm very, how do I say it? Like, I think that's one of the most important things for me is to inspire people and
Yeah.
to be like, I want to be just as open as her.
Yeah.
And take it a bit in real life.
Is that the same for the two of you, or is it?
Well, for me, I was already, when I saw the queers in performance, first thing I wonder is, what is queerness today? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at 40 years ago,
Yeah.
queerness meant something completely different than how the word queer is reclaimed now by the LGBTQIA+
Yeah.
community. So that's, for me, already a question. And also, what is a performance? Because I feel like sometimes my daily life is already a performance and the world is my stage and I don't have to be in a theater. So, that's already like a lot of questions when we just state
Yeah.
this theme. But as I look at myself, I feel like, in a way, the stage and performance is a way for me to be myself, because on the street, I'm not always able to feel safe in the way I express myself. And on a stage, I feel like I'm seen for and celebrated for who I really am.
Yeah. Isn't that always also sometimes kind of the problem that if it's on a stage, people can be like, wow, this is amazing. What I'm seeing, I really love it. And if you would just wander around in the streets being yourself and that same person as a performer, that people are like, huh, what is that? What are you wearing, or what are you doing, or why are you? Is it a way for you also to reclaim something, the
Yeah,
stage?
I think it's a way for a lot of queer people to change their perspective on themselves and to balance the sometimes being misunderstood in the street for being validated on a stage. That balance it out, because if you wouldn't have that stage, then you are always left with that feeling of I'm the odd one out on the street. At least that's for me how it feels. So that's why I think a lot of queer people tend to move towards performance to be appreciated. Yeah.
Yeah. How is that for everyone else?
I think for me, I have to think on the first word that comes to my mind is identification. Because why do we need these terms? You know, me as a multidisciplinary artist, I struggle a lot because, and I think for me, it was very important to say at the beginning, I'm a spirit, because a spirit is something that cannot be containable. So for me, already, both words, performance and queer, are highly problematic. I do understand from my heart and compassion why we need them, why I need them to survive, to even sell my work and be able to be part of a market, to sustain my family, to secure my living. But at the same time, I think that we need all these labels because there is a moment in which we experience, hey, I seem to be different, I seem not to fit, I seem not to be accepted, and I need to find my peers. You know, I need to find something that is a mirror for me to feel reflected and to feel encountered.
Yeah.
And we do the same in some way with theater. You know, we say, but is this theater? Is it performance? Is it music? Is it? I always have this problematic with my work because it's very hybrid. So I like to think a lot of children. You know, I think that before all this societal bullshit gets imposed into us, see children playing.
Yeah.
Isn't that performance? It's just like you are a liquid creature, ever changing, morphing into all sort of characters connected to your desires and feelings and just not caring and being. And I think that actually, for me, even though maybe in this place I have to identify myself as queer because I love my community and I want to be part of it and I want to create something together and empower each other. At the same time, all what I do is trying to elevate ourselves so that we don't need this, so that actually things can blend. And we, you know, and we are just going back to what Luis said, we are being. And we can be everywhere, being whatever, and that's appreciated and it's part of our authenticity, our beingness, our
But are we already there?
right now? Well, I'm getting there myself. I can only speak for myself. You
I don't know about you, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, because I also feel that authenticity and you know, I'm in a very nice moment in my life where I feel appreciated for what I am, but I think that it also comes from a practice, a practice in empowerment and practicing authenticity. And I think that sometimes, you know, we don't have so many tools to practice fierceness.
No.
Going back to Jewell, you know, like, and I think that we find a lot of empowerment because we feel, oh, you are being born with that or not. And sometimes society also like takes it away from you. So it's just a daily practice of getting there. So the only way we can get there is experiencing it with our bodies, even if it feels awkward and we don't know how to do it and we are trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a matter of getting there as artists, as individuals, but also as a community. Because performance art is not only about the piece in itself, is about also creating spaces for queer self-expression and connection with the community and the search for representation and authenticity. For a little bit of context, I lead a platform called Unwanted Words, which is the first platform for up-and-coming queer spoken word artists and poets here in Rotterdam and around. And through our events, what we see is that it's not only about poetry and spoken word is about who you see on stage, in which spaces, and how can people see their stories and their experiences reflected when in mainstream media, in mainstream spaces, they see themselves either as caricatures or completely invisible. So it's a matter of working in multiple dimensions.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about safe spaces, one, as Mama Queen was saying, you are performing as your queer self on street, but it's a very different experience than when you do it in a queer space, in a quote-unquote safe space.
Yeah.
Which it can never be fully safe because you can never account for every single sensibility, every single trigger, every single identity, but you can strive to do that. And I think performance art, what we all do in one way or another, is trying to provide more spaces for our community to connect, to see themselves, and to feel secure, safer.
Yeah.
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 Why do you think, Jewell, that it's important that we create those spaces that are also, well, safe maybe is a tricky word to say, but we could say safer,
Yeah,
right? There are some
secure.
spaces safer than other spaces. And because of course you don't know everyone that is in the room, so let's say safer. Why is that important? Because in the beginning you said I'm a performer, I dance, and it's for everyone. Like it doesn't matter if you're queer also or not. I'm standing here and you can enjoy my performance, and that's it for me. But why is it for you also important to have safer spaces? Is it important for you to have safer spaces?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I see it, I saw it when I was younger, when I went to like the normal spots, like normal clubs or normal festivals, would say the hetero vibe, the
Normative,
straights, you never feel fully safe and you just feel a bit different. And when you do find that safe space, that space where you just come in, it feels like home. And it feels like, you know, you're finally somewhere where you belong with people that are similar to you or even the same as you. And I feel like as a performer, if you also put out a performance, that someone can be like, wow, that she actually looks like me, or we have the same energy or the same vibe. And I think that's very important, especially for young people, especially for youngsters that are 16, 17, definitely struggling with their own identity, with maybe their sexuality, with other things. I think it's so important to aspire them and to be like, oh, I could actually be like her or like him or like they or whatever. And to create those spaces. And it definitely starts with club life, festivals, events, museums even. It starts with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that? Because what you said, Mama Queen, I totally agree with that. I think that I think I said it in every panel that we have. I think that every queer person, by just existing, is already in a way performing and surviving and an artist just by breathing and just by surviving the world that we're living in. But you said I thought it was a nice way that you said it. Like I have like two different stages. I have the street or just live, and I have that on stage. But do we see two different people then, or is it in a way, is it the same person that we see?
Interesting. Yeah, for me, it's always the connection that you have with the people that perceive you. And if I'm on the street, I'm being looked at. If I'm on a stage, I'm being seen. So that's for me the difference in. I feel just as powerful as walking on the street as walking on the stage. But it doesn't mean that it's the same level of security. So when I walk the street alone, it's different than I have the stage for myself.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable if I'm with my fellow queens walking the street, like, yes, we got this, we're doing this. But if I'm on a stage, of course, sharing the stage is always nice. But it's also nice
But
to
it's
have
also
the
nice to have
stage
for
for
yourself.
yourself. So you can truly express your own vision. And so I think it's important, like you said, the representation, that you see like-minded people on a stage expressing themselves, encouraging you to do the same. And in that way, let's say when I'm when I'm looked at by people who don't identify like me, I'm changing their opinion or I'm trying to educate them. But when people who identify like me are looking at me, I strengthen them. So I always say I feel like Mama Queen is a person who wants to strengthen the community from within. And at the same time, when I walk the street or when I have a gig in Amsterdam in the middle of the night and I take the train home and I'm in a train full of drunk people still dressing up like fabulous, then I feel like I'm kind of pushing the boundaries in a more bigger scale.
Yeah.
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 And how does
Yeah.
that feel?
Scary, but liberating as well.
Yeah?
Yeah, sometimes it's scary, but always when I come home, I'm like, yes.
That's
I
good.
did that.
I didn't make people stop me, or I don't want to listen to my fear and limit myself by my fears. So I always push myself. If I'm afraid, I'm like, no, okay, that's exactly where I should push myself to liberate myself, because then I can actually be proud of myself. Because if I listen to my fear, I will never be happy with myself then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I think that's for everyone here, or like not only here, but for everyone in the world, right? Like if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
cannot be yourself, then, yeah, well, then who are you?
Yeah.
No.
And in a way, what we are doing is continuing to pave the way that the people that came before us did and fought,
Exactly.
so we could express ourselves to the degree that we are allowed to and that we can dare to without risking our safety, so the next generation can do it even more freely.
Yeah.
And with less worries, with less danger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you also said about, I said I'm a spirit, and I'm saying that because well, it's not how you said it, but you don't want to pick like a side or something, right? And you don't want to define queer, and you don't want to define performance. But you also said, I know that I have to.
Yeah.
Why is it important in a way that you also have to?
Yeah, well, I think that, all what we experience today in the world is quite dual. This kind of thing of like God is inside us and we shit and we go to the toilet and we love and we speed and we do things that are apparently not coherent or opposite to each other.
Yeah.
They are like really polarities of a spectrum. And I think that, also as a South American person with a believing system, with a history, a story, you come into a place where you are the alien or the other. And of course, parallelly, there is a process of resilience and resistance to remain, and another of mimicry and integration to blend. So I think that for me, I need to understand that I'm a spirit having a human experience. And that inside me and here I have my rules and I have my cosmology and my way of understanding the world and the way I operate. But I gotta be very aware that every space where I am has a different consciousness.
Yeah.
And I think that's very connected with what Mama said about fear. I'm limitless. I like to think of infinity. I'm whatever I want to be at any moment. I'm here and I'm everywhere. At the same time, we're in this interview and time is passing and time costs money, So for me, I just like to keep myself in a zone in which I'm aware both of the limitations that are imposed onto me by society, but at the same time, the greatness of what inhabits me, which is beyond all that, and is that energy and that spirit that keeps up operating and taking me to greater places, And I think it's just about acknowledging that these forces are all the time in turbulence and in collision and sometimes in harmony, and just being a witness of that,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I really love that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, it feels like the queerness is like this radical element of dreaming possibility, and the reality is all the systems of oppression that we need to face,
Yeah.
and is challenging those systems of oppression from this place of infinity,
Yeah.
of abundance, of this radical understanding of our identity and how we relate to each other.
Can I add something else, just the last
Please.
thing? I had an interview a couple of days ago, and I said something like that. I said, the paradox is that I had to look like that only to steal your attention, your focus, to remind you of something very simple, which is you. Because you're not even looking at yourself.
And what was the reaction?
The person started crying.
But you know, therapy.
But that's also, I mean, at the same time, you feel me, like at the same time, you know, I'm a person that right now I don't have a passport with me. My dad has cancer. I don't have how to pay his treatment. And at the same time, I'm the incarnation in this time and space of Nina Simone, because that's the person that I'm like, that's what I am. And I'm recognizing myself in that figure every time. And I'm just like living all of that at the same time. And I feel that it's also this kind of thing of like, sometimes we have to become this to find something that is actually not this at all. It's so much, it's been always there. It has never been castrated. It has never been violated, eradicated, erased, silenced. You know what I mean? So I think that is also, you feel me?
Yeah.
It's just this, okay, so to get is also the same like this, you know, this is me. Every single, you know, these nails are, you look at this. These nails don't belong to my body, but this is me. And then when I take all this off, I'm like, yeah, hello. You're amazing, you know?
Yeah.
But I had to do all the journey to come back.
Yeah.
And wow.
And well, yeah, and well. But is it something that we, and in a way that's a difficult question, that you can see separately from each other? So being queer, it doesn't mean that you're always in a safer space or that you're always in a queer space, but for example, you standing on a stage dancing, and it's not, let's say it's not in a queer space.
Yeah.
So it's just, that happens sometimes, I think. Yeah. Is it something that you can, like, separate?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I have to.
And how does that feel, and how do you do that?
It's a certain attitude that you have to adjust. When I'm in a queer space, my own safe space, I can be whatever I want to be. I can do however I want to do, dance, whatever. It doesn't matter. I can even go on stage with just a thong on and it will be fine.
Yeah.
But for instance, if I'm in a space where I don't feel safe or it's different towards what I'm used to, then I know, okay, I have to cover my titties. I have to mostly cover my body, because if it's too nude or whatever, titties flying by, I will drive a lot of people crazy. A lot of people will even harass me or trying to harass me. I just know that I cannot fully be myself.
Yeah.
I cannot fully dance the way that I'm normally dancing. I have to be more of a bitch towards the audience, because like, no, you cannot touch me, or no, or even walking past a bar, guys slapping my asses. I know that that happens. It's not funny, it's not fun, it's not what I want, but it's just something that I'm used to, fortunately.
Is it a way of surviving also,
it
in a
is.
way?
Yeah, it definitely is. And I don't like being like that. I don't like being mad or bitchy towards someone, like, no, don't touch me, or don't do this, or whatever.
But it's not even bitchy, because you're using the word bitchy, but
Yeah, right.
is
Yeah,
protecting
it's
yourself
it's
in a way.
protecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just not me, and
Yeah.
I have to be like that.
You're right,
Yeah.
but I think if I may, I think
Of
that also
course.
when you say bitchy, I can relate to you, because, and also in relation to your question, Mandy, because, I mean, there is separation, but all is one, but all are pieces that are
True.
part of a oneness. And for me, I can feel you, because I'm also a very sweet person.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to be also like, yeah, I'm also that bitch, and I gotta like call her to come to help me in this
Setting
situation
boundaries.
That is
where I
true.
need to protect myself, you know, and you have to call that energy and be like, hey, what's up, and become
Yeah.
sharp. And
Yeah.
so it's also
Yeah.
like, I think that the beautiful thing also about our practice and our way of being is that we are experiencing many sides of ourselves.
Yeah.
And being in connection to those sides and those colors and you know,
That's
moving.
definitely
yeah, I
true.
Yeah.
I can also, because at first when I started doing drag, I thought, now I'm a drag queen, I can do anything I wasn't able to do before.
Yeah.
But then I realized I don't have to be in drag to feel this fierce and to express myself
Yeah.
like that. And at first I created Mama Queen, but then Mama Queen became this mother of the community, always kind and nice and protective. And but I also needed to, in a way, be that bitch sometimes. So I created another alter ego called Lucifer to kind of protect Mama Queen for
Yeah.
always being, let's say,
Yeah.
giving too much away from herself. And so sometimes I'm choosing to create another alter ego to practice expressing something I'm kind of afraid to express at first.
Yes.
To integrate it in my daily life. When I take off my clothes and I look at myself in the mirror, I can see a complete image of myself.
Yeah.
So,
True.
Yeah.
yeah, and it also has to do with the things that, let's say, society thinks are bad or negative qualities.
That's
They
that's
also
the
belong
thing.
to me,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
need to be able to express them
Yeah.
to fully be myself.
But
so.
then also, is it bad? Like if someone treats you in a space in a way, are you that bitch? Or is that like, that's something
Yeah.
that for me is sometimes I like, yeah, but now I'm the one that is being bitchy, or I even need another alter ego to protect myself. But it's because the space is unsafe. So it's
Yeah.
not, it's a part, but I don't think we should call it a bad side of us. It's just
Yeah.
No.
a side of us, and
Yeah.
we need it sometimes to survive. Because
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
if
100%.
not, then how are we going to move in this world when people treat you the way that some people treat us?
Yeah.
True.
And I think it's a really sad reality that every queer person, but in this context, queer artists need to compromise and need
Yeah.
to
Towards
adapt to really
something,
go
yeah.
out of their way to accommodate for
Yeah.
these unsafe spaces, whether it's for job opportunities, for exposure to be accepted in a certain circle. So it's always our community that needs to adapt.
Yeah.
And not only for the element of queerness, because if we're talking about queerness, we need to talk about intersectionality.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
our
of course.
identities are not one-dimensional, and there are
At all.
multiple layers of oppression and elements that can harm us as a community. So either you compromise with elements of race, gender, class, immigration status, etc., etc. There's always certain element that you need to give away or to adapt in order to exist
Yeah.
Yeah.
somewhere, professionally or personally.
Yeah.
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 Definitely true.
Yeah. And also what you said earlier, Louise, about there were people that paved the way for us and a lot of other peoples. And that's also what we're doing in a way. But sometimes that can feel hard. But why is it important that the four of you do what you do for the younger people? Why do you think it's important that you have to do that, even if you maybe sometimes are like, nah, I'm tired. I don't feel
oh my
like,
God.
like we
feel
all know
very
that.
attacked.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean it like that. But that's how it goes, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But why is
Yeah.
it important?
I can talk about it from my experience with
Yeah.
spoken word and poetry. The reason I believe spoken word is such a powerful channel for queer self-expression is that, as I mentioned earlier, we are used to seeing ourselves being portrayed from a heteropatriarchal lens, either in the media or with stereotypes or with sayings. And we grew up internalizing this and feeling like we are the odd one out.
Yep.
But whenever we see authentic representation of who we are, of our struggles, our trauma, our dreams, aspirations,
And
we
greatness also. Let's not forget our greatness, our
Yes.
light,
feel greatness.
our multiplicity, our infinity. You know, it's also
Yes.
we have to update the computer with also those terms. You know, because
Definitely. Yes.
So true.
And,
True that.
and to me, spoken word is a way to capture these experiences in a way that is universal enough so other people can connect.
Yeah.
Because spoken word is not only the text, it's about embodying it with your story,
Yeah.
with the context, the connection with the audience. And I really love the interaction when people are in the audience, like with spoken word, we don't clap, we don't want to interrupt the performer. It's like
Snapping, yeah.
snapping. And when you
Yeah.
hear that snap, it's like retweet, retweet, retweet. I'm with my people. And that energy is just, it's a space to heal. It's a
Yeah.
space to explore, to have fun, to take calculated risks, because it's not just like performing in front of just anyone you know. It's people that respect pronouns, care about mental health, care about intersectionality, it's spaces that embrace you, that they don't just use you or judge you. In general, I cannot speak for every
No.
single space, queer space.
No, true that. How is that? Yeah, how is that for the three of you?
Well, I have a theater background and was always the only black girl in the group and wouldn't get certain roles because I was black.
Yeah.
And I always struggled with that. I always said, like, why not me? I'm just as talented, maybe even better than
even
the
more,
other girls. And then at one point, I just stopped doing it. I was very confused. I was like, okay, there is still a part of me that wants to be on stage. And when I got that opportunity to be on stage, to dance, and I remembered my friend, he booked me for Milkshake, and he said, you know, it doesn't matter that you don't have a dance background, whatever. Just be you.
Yeah.
And when he said that, and I went on stage, I felt so liberated and almost, no, well, not almost, I was very emotional because I was like, this is the first time I'm just myself, and I could be myself, and looking at the people around me and looking at me like, wow, she's doing that.
You're being celebrated for who
Yes,
you are.
exactly. And I remembered that I saw actually that picture, or I don't know if there was a poster of that year or the year before for Milkshake, of a beautiful, curvy black woman on the poster. And I was like, wow, that could have been me.
Yeah.
And I never saw that in magazines or TV or whatever. And I just always said I want to be that role model for other young black girls that are raised in a white society and they are different and feel different and really feel like that. And that's why on stage I'm just me, and or I take my clothes off, or I shake my booty or not. I'm just me, and I'm not pretending to be anyone else. And I want that to be shown, and that people know that you could just be yourself.
Ooh, beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And needed also.
Needed,
And also
yes.
needed, yeah. Is
Yeah.
that any different for the two of you?
Well, to come back at your question, I feel like it's important to express myself and to be seen, like you say, for representation. But also, many times when we talk about how we can change our environment and the society, we focus on the people that have been before us, and not in a way that they've inspired us, but let's say the straight cisgender white people that are a little bit older than us.
You have a nice way of...
We try to change their opinion many times and to educate them, but I feel like it's easier to educate kids, and they are the future. And that's why I feel like it's important to make sure that they can express themselves fully. And the only way by making sure that they can do that is by doing it ourselves, to make sure that we are the right example. And for me, that's why my drag alter ego is called Mama Queen, because I want to show other queens how they can do that. And the only thing I want to do is make sure that they can be themselves fully, and not be like me, but be like themselves, 100%. So I feel like that's the most important thing. That's why I express myself, not to liberate myself only, but also to liberate the next generation.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
Always.
Like, did you hear me asking this question and thinking while I was asking this question, do I need to ask this question?
You know, I have to think about vibration. Our hearts vibrate, and those vibrations are oscillators, you know? And we connect in that frequency. And you know, there are scientifically proven facts like the electromagnetic field of Earth and the way consciousness moves in space, and the reason why humanity is busy with one subject for a specific amount of time in history, or birds in one part of the planet learn something, and then birds on the other learn the same on the same time. It's all about this consciousness that travels through oscillation and vibration and wave forms. And, you know, I like to think of a flower. You know, a flower, when it's being born, it has only one purpose. It's I'm here.
Yeah.
And this is who I am, and I got this color, and I'm gonna indulge in this beingness for the rest of my fucking life. And because this deserves a space for it to be born and flourish, that space is gonna be given. And there is no dialogue about that.
No.
And that's the dialogue.
Yeah.
The space is needed because I exist. Dot. And so I like to think that whatever we are doing in here, in this space of the world, in front of this little camera and this person behind the camera and these people here, it's vibrating and oscillating and it's updating the whole thing that we are as a collective consciousness, you know? And I think, okay, you know, the only thing I'm gonna do is just be this flower, be this very specific pattern that just wants to, is a motif. You know, each one of us is this flower, is this motif, which only purpose is to reproduce itself
Yeah.
Yes.
and expand itself, whether it is through creativity, it's just pure expression. That's the ultimate form of love. So, you know, I recognize also myself as a person with a very fragile biopolitical situation for many years. You know, I was long time in this space of like, pointing at the thing and being like, hey, let's change and bloody doodly. And now I'm just busy with myself. You know what I mean? And the thing is that the more I'm busy with myself, the more I'm busy with the world, because I'm a subatomical division of this whole thing. And the more I change and I evolve and I transform, everything around me is transforming and reflecting that back.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel that my mission is to be.
Yeah, just
To be and
Yeah.
connecting to what Mama says and what we have been talking, fearlessness.
Yeah.
You know, and be every single second that thing that I imagine. I'm being it right now.
Yeah.
And the more I dwell into it, I'm becoming, and I witness my own becoming, and I keep on
Rising,
and then you
yeah.
also, the good thing is that it doesn't matter how much space it takes because it gives you space.
Yeah.
Because our hearts start oscillating and vibrating in the same frequency, and we're like, yeah, me too, bitch. I'm also that flower, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we go.
Yeah.
You know what? That is also very scary for the system, for the status quo. People being their authentic selves. Can we?
It's threatening
Can we curse?
sometimes. But yes, you can curse.
People being their authentic selves fucks up with the entire system that is designed to trigger you, to give you insecurities, to sell you stuff. And people who are choosing to disregard these conventional values and look for what works for them, whether it's who they love, with how many people do they sleep with, how do they relate to businesses, to industries, whatever, it is a direct challenge to the system the way it is. And that is why the system resists and oppresses, because it's not designed for people to be their authentic selves.
No.
Yeah.
But you know, I just want to add quickly, I don't think anymore in repression, to be honest. You
No?
know, I was very much prey of a lot of verbal and physical violence in the street for a long time. And at some point, I was a bit like, you know, I'm in that because fear is also vibration. We have to take care of our words, you know, because I'm a bit like, the straight world loves me as I am. They love me. I'm necessary. Every single step I am is accepted, is honored, is granted. And I'm every day focusing on, you know, instead of fighting the big thing, I'm just, you feel me?
true.
Yeah.
Because I feel that every time you know, in another panel that I was, there was a person that really tried to frame me a lot in my own story, migrating to Holland. And I said to that person, I said, like, no, 1 second. I'm going to tell that. I'm going to give you access to my story when I want, because I'm every time reminded of my limitations. So I didn't come here for you to remind me of my limitations. I came here to, you know, to rather forget about them, because already forgetting is the statement that creates the change. But as long as I'm in that figure of like, because I come from South America. Yeah, bitch, I come from South America. It's hard.
Yeah.
I know, but I don't want to say that.
No.
You know
and
what?
everyone
You feel me?
has needs to get the space to tell their own story and not also in performance. Like, no one has to tell your story. You're the one who can tell your story the best. Well, that's
In
what
your
I
own
believe.
terms,
In
when
your
you're ready.
terms,
Of
when
course.
you,
Yeah.
where you want it, how you want it, because
And to say just lastly, the last thing I say, I promise.
no,
Mary, Jesus Christ. I promise. The last thing, to also give ourselves the chance to be what we are not yet in this reality, but we are in our deepest
ourselves.
truth. Because I don't want to be reminded of that thing I was. I'm there. So also this world that we're aiming for is already here, and we're the seeds of it. And we got to just indulge in that change, which is us, which is the manifestation of this space as such, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I don't think that any of us can disagree with that.
Put it on a
right?
It's
T-shirt.
inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. So inspiring, yes.
Yeah, that would be like a one suit. No, but it's totally true, and I think it's really important also for maybe people that are watching and that are younger and want to take that space because they are like, I also want to be like one of them, and seeing the four of you and knowing like, oh, so there is space for me, and I can take that space, and they are like an example for me because maybe it's not always easy, but just doing it and just going there and sitting in that train and taking your space and being that flower. I think it's really important for us and others to see that like what you said, that space is already there, but not everyone sees it that they have that space.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just important to reclaim it and be like, I can be here, I deserve to be here, and
And trust.
yeah.
But also like you were talking about vibrations. Let's say when I'm in a train and I'm in full drag and there's a lot of drunk people in the train trying to harass me. If I feel afraid in that moment, then I give them the control over the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if I'm like just putting my earphones in, let them scream, it's not affecting me, then they will be bored and
No.
let it go.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm starting to defend myself, I'm actually indulging in that same frequency, and then I create that thing that I'm actually afraid of.
Yes.
So I was also like, when I was walking on the street and people are yelling at me or screaming at me or whatever, if I, in a way, internalize it and agree with them, then I'm going to get stuck with that. But if I know, like, oh, why are they thinking like that?
Yeah.
They're a product of society. They've been raised a certain way. That's why they perceive me in that sense. And it's their perception of me. Doesn't mean that I'm judging them for how they see me. But I can then let go of what they think of me and just be still happy with myself.
Yeah.
And like,
And be
even
you.
though I can be stressed a little bit from, oh, that happened.
Of
I wasn't
course.
prepared for that. But at the same time, it doesn't affect me anymore that I feel like it's changing me for who I am.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
say. So,
May I ask, how did you get to that point? Because that sounds like a lot of growth.
well, it's experience, honey.
Yeah.
Resilience.
I mean, of course, I was expressing myself quite feminine from a very early age, and where I grew up, it wasn't accepted. Thank God it was accepted by my family, so I was always safe at home. Not always understood, but at least protected. And basically, because my mom loved me so much, she taught me how to love myself
Yeah.
and not be affected by it so much. So that's why I think it's important to have people around you that love you and support you and see you for who you are.
Yeah, and what
strengthen
you say that and tell you that you can love yourself, and if people see other people loving themselves, so let's take the four of you, like owning it, flourishing and loving yourself. That's already an example, even when you're not on that stage performing, but just by
Being yourself.
being that, and if I see that other people are loving themselves and they're queer, I'm like, yes. I celebrate then that moment too, and I'm
And
like,
you celebrate
yes.
yourself, and you feel like,
Yeah.
You get reminded of your own power.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what the four of you do, even if you're not on that stage, because for every queer person, stage is where we are, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
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 So thank you so much. I hope to see the four of you soon again in a way that we have a lot of people here asking also questions to the four of you, and hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank
so much, Mandy.
you.